Welcome, everybody, to day 20 of the Seance at the Whitney. The presence of your company is requested at a convening of spirits. We don't exactly know what's going to happen tonight. We'll have to wait and see what the spirits tell us. Every night we try to keep to a sort of a schedule. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. The month of February is always my opportunity to test what it's like to be a pantser, and you people can have it. I like my passionate plotting. No, thank you. The Seance at the Whitney is an interactive indie author virtual book festival featuring author readings every night, an interactive improv mystery game that you all get to participate in, and book giveaways. Oh, so much fun. Okay, participating authors, you see them right there on your screen. We have a score of them. They're amazing. Oh my gosh. Check them out, find their books, enjoy their work, tell your friends, because they're really, really good. Tonight, we have Deborah Reed is reading The Reject from Room 5, and that's a YA novel. You'll enjoy that. We always enjoy Deborah on the program. Melinda Falgos was going to read a brand new coming soon novel for us, but she's having some technical difficulties. So we're going to have her read later in the month. So if you have an opportunity to jump in the next 8 or 9 days, make sure that you come and check that out, because that's going to be super duper duper fun. Okay, Deborah Reed, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, take the microphone and read aloud.
Okay, so this is The Rejects of Room 5. It is about 3 high school students who are from very different walks of life who are thrown together on a school project, and it is from all 3 viewpoints. I'm going to read a chapter, the first chapter, which is from the character Emma's viewpoint. She was never quite good enough. That was it, my epitaph, the words that would mark my tombstone and secure my legacy, meager though it was. Samantha's look was distant. Sorry, Em, we've already got 4. My eyes darted from Sammy to the other 3 chatting it up, their desks shoved together in a tight circle. None of them stopped talking or bothered to look my way. It figured. Daddy's newfound money had only gotten me so far with the in-crowd. Separate into groups of 3 or 4 and start brainstorming ideas? Sure. Everywhere I looked, kids had pushed their desks together and were talking and laughing. If Ms. Hawthorne actually thought brainstorming was happening, she was a little too new at the job. With dread, I turned to look toward the back of the classroom. My eyes slid closed with equal amounts elation that I wouldn't be working alone, an utter outcast, and dismay at who my partners were going to be. I had seen the girl with dyed, jet-black hair several times over the years. Her name escaped me. She didn't look too concerned at her lack of partners for the project, though, her eyeliner and encased eyes squinting as she picked at the dark blue nail polish on her nails. The boy didn't look familiar at all. Walton High was a big school, so I chose that as my defense against complete indifference. My eyes narrowed. He was Mexican or something, his hair dark, skin the color of the tan I always tried for during summer and always failed to achieve. His pants were also 2 inches too short, and his plaid button-down shirt was giving me flashbacks to pictures I'd seen of my parents before I was even born. My head swiveled to stare pleadingly at Miss Hawthorne, but her head was bent over some papers on her desk. Yet another rebuff to tack on to the rest. Huffing the sigh of the condemned, I shuffled to the back of the room. Neither the girl nor the boy bothered looking up to see who had invaded their personal space. I cleared my throat. Nothing. Hey, it looks like we're together for the project. Eyeliner girl didn't even glance up from her nails. What project? I stared at her. Seriously? The boy's eyes darted up in my direction, then back down to the paper he was doodling on before our gazes could make actual contact. I thought we'd just do our own, individually. My head slowly shook from side to side, sure I'd heard wrong. We can't. Ms. Hawthorne said we have to work in groups. The boy shrugged. I finally got a response from the girl, even though it was an eye roll. I think. It was hard to see past all that eyeliner. We'll get marked down, I tried again, feeling panic creep into my voice. I could already hear my father's voice in my head, and it wasn't pretty. The girl sighed. Rules are meant to be broken, she said dryly, reaching up to rake blue fingernails through her hair. No, they're not, I sputtered loudly, my knuckles turning white as I gripped my notebooks even harder. I could feel pages creasing under the pressure. The boy looked up, actually looked at me, alarm on his face. I tried to relax the grip on my notebooks. Okay, we can do it together, he said quickly, his eyes slightly warped behind thick glasses. His words relieved the tension in my shoulders almost instantly. On the heels of that came a blush that turned my cheeks a nice flaming shade of red. For being one of the popular kids at Walton, I was definitely acting like a nerd. Feeling like sitting down might take some of the attention off me, as now even Eyeliner Girl was staring at me suspiciously, I quickly slid into a chair behind the closest desk, banging my knee against the desk leg in the process. My eyes watered from the pain. I'm Emma Swan, I said, tossing my blonde hair over my shoulder as I carefully pried stiff fingers from around the bent notebooks in my hands. Fascinating, Eyeliner Girl muttered under her breath. I glared. And you are? I purposely left it hanging. Sighing, she flipped her hair over her shoulder in what I felt sure was supposed to be an imitation of me. Veronica Bennett, she said, affecting a lofty tone. It was my turn to roll my eyes. Turning to the boy next to me, I said more gently, What's your name? His bronze skin turned a dull shade of red under my gaze. Wallace. Wallace Perez. Veronica snorted loudly through her nose. Wallace? Really? Talk about setting your kid up for failure from birth. I gaped at her. That wasn't nice, I snapped. Oh, look, you've never said anything like that before? Veronica's look could have cut ice. Sorry, Miss Swan, she said sarcastically, but I've walked by your lunch table before. My face burned. I couldn't deny it. I had done my fair share of making fun of people before, but not to their face. Veronica was apparently done with me. She turned back to Wallace. We'll call you Ace. Okay. Wallace either didn't care about his new nickname or was too flustered to fight it. Or maybe he was just afraid of Veronica. I suddenly noticed the skin near his left eye was twitching. Clearing my throat, I shifted my notebooks, choosing the one with the purple plaid cover to flip open. Okay, so what are your ideas for the project? What project? Veronica asked absently. She was back to picking at her blue nail polish. My eyes slid closed as I exhaled loudly. This was going to be a long several weeks. Wallace glanced at Veronica, then back at me. I'm open to ideas. A very long several weeks. Veronica tossed her black hair over her shoulder. Just pick something cute to research. Otters or something. Everyone likes otters, for some reason, she mumbled at the end. Wallace squinted at Veronica like she was a species he had never seen before, while I exhaled loudly through my nose. Again. We are in sociology class, not zoology class, I said, my lips pulled tightly against my teeth as I fought to keep cool. Veronica wrinkled her freckled nose and waved dismissively. Then just find a way to tie it all into the economy of humans or something like that. Or something like that? I sat mute, my mind blank of any comeback. I couldn't figure out if the girl across from me was insanely smart and trying to cover it up, or aggravatingly stupid. My gaze shifted to Wallace, perhaps hoping he might save me from the alien species we were deigned to work with, but he simply lifted a shoulder in a baffled shrug. Thankfully, the bell rang at just that moment, allowing me to avoid having to find words. Veronica shot up from her chair as if it was on fire, snatching her books off the desk and making a beeline for the door without saying another word. Wallace stood more slowly, grabbing a black backpack that lay at his feet. Don't worry, we'll come up with something next class, he said, trying to sound reassuring. It would have helped if he didn't look so worried. Yeah, I sighed, closing my purple plaid notebook. Sure. I turned, looking for Sammy and my other friends, but all I saw were their backs as they walked out the door of room 5. A shaft of anxiety lanced through me as I fought the urge to chase after them. Don't make a fool of yourself, Emma. My father's words, spoken so often they were a constant presence in the back of my mind, forced me to my feet slowly as my friends disappeared into the hallway. Somehow, being made to look a fool was the least of my worries.
Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, super, super fun. Deborah has written how many young adult novels now?
I think 7 young adult.
Yeah, Go check them out. They've won awards for very good reason. They're good stuff. Thank you for your storytelling, Madame.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we are going to move on to our wacky thing that we always do. This is the Seance at the Whitney. And as I always do, we begin the evening with the recap. Why, you might ask, am I doing this every night? Part of it is because some people come into the room who have never been with us before. And part of it is because I know you guys like the extra time to think up questions. So here we go. At the Ghost Bar inside the Whitney Manor and historic Detroit estate, a world-famous psychic medium has come for an exclusive invitation-only seance. With so many curious about spiritualism around the world, this event promises to connect the living and the spirit worlds, opening doors to mysteries that transcend time and space. But when the seance spirals into a chilling rendezvous with a vengeful spirit and a shocking murder, it falls upon those in attendance to unravel the truths hidden in the darkest depths of the past. A spirit is summoned, vowing revenge on their killer. One of the guests becomes hysterical, claiming the spirit is there for them. Suddenly, the lights start flickering and wind pushes the windows open, extinguishing the candles around the room. The room and everyone in it are thrust into darkness. When the light returns, that same hysterical guest is lying on the floor, dead. Who killed them? Why? Was it the furious spirit or something far more earthly? Only the shadow knows. Okay. Our cast. The medium is played by the great Christopher Gare. His assistant is Donna Newman. The author is Amy Kelso. The socialite, Dawn Menge. She is not in the room this evening. The spouse is Jules Nelson. The fan, Marianne Wieland. The aloof guest, Gary Floyd. The maitre d', Melinda Faugo. And I am your storyteller. Now, as some of you may remember from last night, we had a lot of interesting information come out. And I know that we didn't get to everyone's questions. So I'm going to start now with questions. Who has something lurking out there that they did not get a chance to ask yesterday? Yes, Mackenzie, I am a passionate plotter. I like organizing my stories in a very succinct way, which is why I am doing all of the research at the Detroit Public Library, because I don't like to throw things haphazardly to the wind. Anyone else? Questions? Donna Newman, go ahead.
Jules is in the room, yes?
I thought so.
I am.
Where'd
Yes.
she go?
Oh, there
Yes,
she is. I was like, I couldn't see.
Found her. Yep.
Jules, what did you do with the gun after you used it to quiet Nora?
Put it back. I didn't,
Back in the drawer?
yeah, back in the drawer and closed it. Yep.
Because she cleans up after herself.
Okay.
Anyone
my
else?
question.
Gary, I couldn't see what you held up. Can you tell us what that was?
Truman Capote in cold blood, Ghost Rider, Jules Nelson.
Perfect. I didn't know Jules was an aspiring author like her sister-in-law,
That I
Amy.
picked up in the library here at the Whitney.
Maybe Jules is trying to steal a little bit of Amy's thunder, perhaps.
She was talking bad about my books yesterday. I think she's just jealous.
Maybe her marketing plan has only just begun. Marianne Wieland, go ahead.
I just had something that I thought of. It came to my mind going back to the autopsy report where it says that cause of death was blunt trauma to the carotid artery.
Yes.
Now, I think it would take quite a force to be able to cause that much damage to the carotid artery. And this is what I think. I think someone was actually aiming for the head, probably the temple. Now think about it.
I suppose that is a possibility. The lights were out. We may never figure that part out. Mark McCraw, go ahead.
All right, so the question I have for Jules, when you put that gun back, did you have gloves on?
No, it wasn't something I had thought out, so I didn't have gloves with me, so it was kind of a spur of the moment thing.
So the act of taking the gun and quieting Nora was not premeditated?
Yeah, that's what I want to know because of the possible fingerprints and all that stuff. You would have been worried about that if you were quieting her.
No, I just had this sudden voice in my ear. It might have been our ghost Bethany, just saying that we needed to protect the family and the family name, and it was just something that suddenly came to me. I didn't plan it ahead of time, so I didn't have gloves or anything.
And it's not like she is an author like Amy and would have thought of these things ahead of time.
Mhm.
Amy would have, thought of these things.
If I were to do such a thing, which obviously I did not do. So
Okay. Justine Manzano, go ahead.
Marianne, before Nora's murder, what was your relationship like?
Nora and I were extremely close. We were the best of friends. We loved each other very, very much. That's why I've spent all these years trying to find out what happened to her. That's why we wanted her to marry the best man possible, which was Troy Haynes, not Richard Whitney, the moron. But yes, our relationship was excellent. And I have done everything I could think of to try to find out what happened to her. And I'm just devastated. It might not sound like it, but I am.
Amy, go ahead.
sorry, I had a question. I got derailed by Mackenzie's question. So
Well,
Mackenzie's question
Mhm.
says, Miss Kelso, did you have a voice in your head when you were told of the family rumor, and that's why you denied it profusely? Although I am a writer and I can imagine voices, I don't have like voices in my head telling me what to do or not do. No.
So what you're saying is you don't see and hear things the way Donna does.
No, I have never, that I know of, seen a ghost, although I guess I'm seeing Gary now. But other than Gary, I've never seen a ghost before. I've never had
Okay.
voices telling me what to do. No.
Okay. Now you said you had a question of your own, Amy.
I
We can
yes.
circle
No,
back. Okay, go
no,
ahead.
I just wanted to question Mary Ann, who says that she was very close to Nora, because I know me and Nora and Richard would always play together, and I never saw Mary Ann. I didn't even realize Nora had a big sister. So it makes me question just how close you guys really were.
Very close. And why you didn't see me, I used to see you a lot when you were a little girl and you were all playing in the woods, because I would walk from my family's estate through the forest to the Whitney. But I've been to the Whitney a lot in disguise, a lot of times, trying to get information on my sister. What I'd like to know is, when you were playing with the balls in the woods, did you used to play catch with them at all?
She
Mm.
juggled.
Did you ever play catch?
With the
Crystal balls?
crystal ball?
The crystal ball you had in the forest that you used to play with all the time.
No, it was always a sacred object that, our stories were told around. We wouldn't throw around our balls. We don't just fling our balls willy-nilly like some people do, Christopher. No, we were very careful with our balls.
All right. Christopher, I understand you have something to contribute.
Am I the only one who thinks this is crazy? We've got Mae West on one side making out with Charles the maid, Melania on the other side. Oh, I love my husband. Sure you did. And now they've got a gun. Who are they now? Thelma and Louise? Then we've got Ma Kettle over here calling everyone names, and she's 3 fries short of a Happy Meal. You got a host for spirits over here, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and the resident author. I watched a YouTube interview with her while I was relieving myself earlier, and she was asked what her writing process was. She batted her eyes and giggled, thievery.
That was a long time ago. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Miranda, go ahead. What's your question?
Oh, that's a hard one to follow. Donna, I know that you are the one that seems to have the least least amount of motive in this whole group, and which makes me a little bit suspicious. So I need to ask you the question: do you have any biological or genetic relationship to the deceased?
I do not believe I do. Not that I am aware of. I am not related.
You said earlier that you met the great Christopher in Seattle, correct?
Yep, I met great Christopher
Okay.
in Seattle, but I don't think I'm biologically related to the deceased or any of his family that I'm
Okay,
aware of.
awesome. Okay, Justine, go ahead.
Jules, you said that you don't believe in spirits and all of this, right?
Mhm.
But you said you heard a voice telling you to protect. Was that like a metaphoric voice or was it a real voice?
It was a metaphoric voice. I just felt the strong urge that I needed to protect the family. And I mean, if she went to the hospital, it would be a huge scandal for it. So it was more of a metaphorical voice. But I don't know, listening to the stories last night, it's like, I wonder if, maybe it was somebody else, a presence in the house that was leaning me towards it. I don't know.
Mark McCraw, go ahead.
So Jules, the question I have for you is, have you ever felt like you were an outcast with the family? The entire family?
Yes.
All the
I mean,
deceased?
yeah,
Besides,
I mean, they would always have conversations off by themselves. And like Amy, she didn't care so much that Richard and Nora were each getting married, because she's more married to her books and writing and stuff. But she was very upset for a long time that they were bringing me and Troy into the family. She was devastated, like it was like ruining the club. And then
It was.
and then after Nora disappeared, then Richard was no fun anymore at all. So basically he stopped talking with anybody. Even Amy told him he wasn't any fun anymore. So you gotta just get where everybody stops talking to me. And yeah, it felt like very much
Family
like
estrangement is a strange, odd thing to deal with.
Yes.
We're gonna do 2 questions and then I have some information to offer. Gary Floyd, go ahead.
I had a question for Amy. Is that it said something about that you recorded conversations with Peter and Nora. Is this a common thing that you recorded other people's conversations?
No, other than the ones with Peter and Nora, because we were creating these great stories and I wanted to be able to remember them. But no, I did not record anyone else's conversations.
Did they know you were recording them?
Well, just to be clear, she wasn't recording like tape recording. She would go back to school and write the stories.
Yeah.
So she was doing that from memory. It wasn't a tape recording. Amy, your question, and then we'll move on.
Okay, and this is actually another question from Mackenzie.
Okay.
And this is for you, our wonderful storyteller. Because you are a plotter, a passionate plotter, she wants to know, so it makes sense to assume that you've plotted out this news story. So you had perhaps this whole story figured out ahead of time, because you like to have everything figured out. Is that true?
Well, I can speak to this way. When I begin to write a story for the newspaper, I definitely have a plot in order. Deborah Reed will tell you this. When you start writing for a newspaper, you have a definite outline of ideas that you want to include in your story. There is definitely a flow and a plot involved. However, since we've been doing this, I've received so much new information, not only from my research at the library, but from everybody in the room sharing information back and forth. It has certainly altered how I imagine this story was supposed to have been written to begin with. This started out being a fluff piece on the great Richard Gere and Christopher Gere. See, I'm so flustered because nothing is going the way I planned it. I didn't want this to be some intricate, family drama thing. I was just looking for a puff piece for the newspaper. And of course,
Sure.
the spiritualist was like the ultimate in puff pieces. So that's what happened there. So yes, passionate plotter, and I'm completely outside of my element here. So I'm just doing the best I can. Okay. In my research at the library, I told you guys yesterday, the day before, I have uncovered the property survey from the Ainsworth and Whitney manors. I was not permitted to take the document out of the library because they have something about historical records and that kind of nonsense. So I had to rough sketch from the property survey into my own notebook. So please forgive me if this is not to scale or if it's not artistically meeting your expectations, but this is the property survey. As you will notice, this is the Whitney Manor with its very grand entrance. This is the Ainsworth estate. They meet in the middle where the each has a decrepit shed. I have to admit the Ainsworth shed is in better condition than the Whitney shed. Gotta say, Whitneys weren't real great at maintaining their property for a long time. I'm guessing that's because of the haunted rumors. The well meets in just on the property lines of both estates. That's where the well is located. But something else that I found that's very interesting on this property survey, these homes, I couldn't find any specific dates, but I'm guessing sometime between World War I and World War II, there were 2 bomb shelters, fallout shelters that were built, one on each property. There are tunnels that connect the 2 properties. Now and they go through these fallout shelters. The tunnels do connect through the fallout shelters. So 2 things come to mind. First of all, the whoever installed these fallout shelters certainly had a lot of paranoia going on, and or they were preparing for the worst doomsday scenario possible. The second thing that comes to mind is I'm really curious about where these tunnels may lead inside each manor. I am still trying to uncover that information from the library, but unfortunately, I have not yet found where the tunnels open into the manor. That is all I have to say about that. Does anybody have any questions? Amy, go ahead.
Just to clarify, and you may not know from your records, but so those tunnels, do they go anywhere near the actual well?
There is a tunnel that goes adjacent to the well. They don't connect with the well, but the tunnel does go next to the well. And I'm guessing that they had to be very careful about building that tunnel because they didn't want the well water to seep in and drown the tunnel. So I'm guessing, I don't have exact measurements, but I'm guessing that there's enough distance so that you're not going to get floodwaters from the well, and the well water would not be contaminated by anything that might be in the tunnel. So the idea that the well and the tunnel might be somehow accessible one to the other, I suppose is a possibility over years of decay. But in the original property survey, I did not see that possibility at all, the way it was constructed.
Okay.
Jules, go ahead.
Amy, when you said you climbed down into the well the other day, did you notice there was a hole down there?
I never said I climbed down into the well. I said I was around the well. I happened to find the crystal ball in the ground around the well, but I did not climb down in the well. Why would I climb into a well? I have no reason to. I have no reason to think that there's anything down the well that I should be checking out. So no, I did not climb down the well.
Well, you just keep hemming and hawing around actually answering the question, so it makes me wonder. So I was hoping I'd trip you up on that one.
Mhm.
Sister-in-laws with their claws out. I love it. Gary Floyd, go ahead.
I had a question. In your findings, Miss Storyteller, was there any connection earlier between the Ainsworth estate, the Whitney estate? Was it ever like commonly owned
No, it was
before the
never.
Whitneys?
It was never commonly owned. The two estates were built at separate times, approximately 10 years apart. However, I do know that David Whitney and the head of the Ainsworth family, I believe his name was Matthew Ainsworth. I do know that they were friends. So this is a relationship that was established at a similar time period. But again, this is, David Whitney is Amy's great grandfather. So it's, 3 generations. I do not have a family tree on the Ainsworth family. I've not been able to uncover that yet. Anybody else? Marianne.
Yes. Are you perhaps saying that my beloved sister might possibly still be alive? Is that what you're saying? Oh, Troy, she might be alive. Is that what you're all saying? Does anybody know? Oh my God. Oh, my sister. You have to find my sister. She's alive.
Jules.
Oh, great one. You would know. You can tell us, oh, great one.
Boy, am I glad
Can
there's a
you
table
roll
between
and
us.
tell us?
Christopher,
If it helps,
Christopher, do
I
you have
look in
any?
her mind and what I hear is
I requested having a table between us.
That's a great translation, great Christopher. I didn't know you had multiple language skills in your repertoire.
learn something new about me every day.
I do. Jules, go ahead.
So there's a possibility that my single shot actually might have crumbled the old wall and it made a connection between the two. And I could have actually saved her life because the fall, she probably wasn't going to climb out herself. So
I think that is definitely a possibility, considering the decayed state of both the tunnel and the well. That is possible.
And the trollop left her. The trollop left her there to die. Oh my God.
Okay. Donna Newman, go ahead.
Marianne, you said that you and your sister were really, really close. If somebody
Yes.
dropped her down the well and then shot at her, don't you think she would have come and told her big sister? Because I know I would have told my big brother.
I would think so.
I'm wondering how
Although I
close
know
you really were.
we were very close. And I was very close to Troy, and I know he loved her, and I know she loved him, but she was kind of reluctant to get married, and it's because of that moron Richard. The Whitneys, they're all lunatics, murderers, thieves, all of them.
You might be misappropriating the word lunatic. Okay. All right. Does anybody else have questions? Amy, are there any questions in the chat?
No, I just have to point out that Mackenzie said Miss Nelson wants to play a hero, so she's less likely to be suspected of murder.
That's an interesting theory. Melinda, I just saw this in the chat. Melinda says perhaps the falling rocks gave her amnesia.
Did
Who
the
knows?
okay. Mark McCraw keeps asking, did the family members check out the tunnels? So do we know, has anyone explored those tunnels? Because those were not ones that I knew of, and I did explore a lot of secret passages in the Whitney Manor.
Yeah,
so-
you mentioned that you knew of secret passages in the manor. Did anyone else in the family, Jules, Mary Ann, were either of you, Nora, you might know this answer as well. Did you guys know about these fallout shelters and the tunnels that connected the two properties?
I didn't, but sometimes Richard would come back from walks and he'd be a little dusty. So I mean, maybe he knew that they were there.
Nora, did you know anything about these tunnels?
This is the first that I've heard of it.
Okay.
Maybe not.
All
Maybe it
right.
went out. Maybe it went out how many years ago that was with that generation.
Okay.
Does
Any,
Melinda know of anything? Melinda's been
Melinda,
working too well.
yeah, Melinda, let us know in the chat if you know. No, Melinda says no, she doesn't, she
Okay.
didn't know about these either. So it's possible that these tunnels, due to the age of their construction, may not have been common knowledge for the current generation of Whitneys. I suppose that's a possibility. Oh, I'm sorry, Melinda. We'll find it. We'll find it. Okay. Anybody, any last questions before we leave the interrogation room for this evening? Jules, go ahead.
I have a question for Melinda just in the chat, but I mean, she knew what Nora looked like because she was there all the time. So does this maid that happens to know everything about everything, I mean, could she look a little bit maybe like Nora? Because I mean, how else would she know everybody's conversations that nobody else was there for?
That is a good question. Are you
The maid's an old bat.
Amy, can you read that?
Believe me, I
Before I
know an
respond.
old bat when I see one.
Amy, can you read the chat for us?
Mackenzie said Gary should totally try a female or ghostly voice for when Nora is asked a question. And I'm in the middle of writing back. I think that is his female voice.
And do we have a
Done
response from
right.
Amy? Do we have a response from Melinda?
Oh, sorry. I heard they had time to identify all the help.
Okay, yeah, she, as the maitre d', she has been very busy. Last question, Gary.
They had, this is for the storyteller. They were involved in some illegal activities back in the day when David was around. Were they bootleggers and stuff like that? I'm trying to think of what.
Yeah, I don't have any information about bootlegging. I do have, we uncovered the family legend of David and Sarah Whitney, who were quite proficient jewelry thieves.
Could the tunnels have been used in any kind of nefarious way?
I suppose they could have been. I haven't seen any of that in my research, but I
Okay.
suppose they could have been. All right. Thus concludes tonight's episode of Lunacy at the Whitney. Congratulations, everyone. We made it through another night. Let's get to my share screen. So we're still trying to figure out who did it. Remember, the seance is going to be over on the 28th, and on the 29th, we will sling our accusations, and we will figure out who did this. Whether you guys figure it out or not, I'm going to get to the bottom of it because my job rests on whether or not I solve this crime. If you hear someone in the replays say I have nothing to say about that, remember, it could be they don't know, or it could be they're trying to cover something up. In my experience as an investigative reporter, people don't always become 100% forthcoming with their answers. So keep that in mind. Wax drippings, here it is, wax drippings. Time to see where the standings are. You know, we're getting close to the end. You guys gotta start putting out the word for everybody to name you in the wax stripping contest, because we're giving away snazzy medals. They're pretty cool. Christopher Gare is in first place with 170. Amy Kelso with 165. Andrew Allen Smith with 136. Deborah Reed 134. And Jules Nelson 131. Yeah! And there are the standings for the rest of the authors. As you can see, we have a couple of ties going on. So let's see how we can change those numbers moving forward. It is time for Talismans from the Spirits. This is the part of the night when we give away free books. Each night we spin the wheel of happiness, and we make sure that we give free stuff to people who put up with all the nonsense that comes before the spinning wheel of happiness. If your name comes up on the spinning wheel, please send me your mailing address in an email to Diana@pagespromotions.com. Miss Deborah Reed, go ahead.
Since Emma wasn't in Melinda, neither one were able to read. If people are interested, I can give away 2 copies of the rejects, so there can be 2 giveaways as usual.
You are tremendously generous. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, we will do that. Let me pull up the spinning wheel of happiness. Okay, Deborah, just because I love you and I don't want you to have to win your own book, I'm going to pull your name off the wheel real quick. Is everybody else in the room? Just checking the room. Checking, because, hold on. I'm still doing the thing here. Couple of people registered but did not appear in the room, so I had to clean up the wheel. All right, here we go. Spinning wheel of happiness time. Thank you all for your patience. We're going to do the spinning wheel of happiness. Can you see it, Amy?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. The first copy from Deborah Reed. Okay, and the second copy from Deborah Reed.
Yay, but I already own that wonderful book. So let's let someone else win it.
Amazing. We have the most generous community of indie authors on the planet. Okay, here we go. Congratulations, Justine. Yay! Okay, good job, everybody. Again, Deborah, thank you. You're awesome. I appreciate you. Okay, one more spinny wheel. Hold on. There it is. So, again, send me your mailing address in an email to Diana@pagespromotions.com. Even if you think I already have your mailing address, please send it to me, because my brain is just not smart enough to remember whose address I have and whose I don't. I can only do so much in a day. And the big reveal. I have the wrong slide up because, I was so busy trying to figure out what I was doing today. However, we are doing the big reveal on February 29th. We are having an extraordinarily amazing hat contest. So make sure you bring your amazing, extraordinary hats. We're giving away prizes I haven't even mentioned yet, because even I need to keep some things a secret. Just a few. And we're gonna have a really good time revealing who done it. So come on back on the 29th. Before we go, I want to know one piece of information today that you received that really stuck in your head as something that's going to help you, a clue that's going to help you divine who did the murder. Gary Floyd.
I'm fascinated by the tunnel system.
Okay.
Thing I didn't know about, and I'm wondering what to choose for.
Christopher Gare.
The shelters? Because she could have been living there undetected for quite some time if they'd stocked it.
Good point. I hadn't even thought about that. Jules Nelson.
I found out that I might actually been a hero if I made a connection between the well and the shelter. I mean, I may have just saved her life, and all these years I've somewhat felt guilty about it, and I've just been alleviated from that guilt.
You shot at
Wow.
her, and now you're really hero because you may have saved her.
But she couldn't shoot.
Deborah Reed, what clue sticks out for you?
I'm really interested in the tunnels and that whole thing and what could possibly come from that, because it could be even more than just like she's alive. There could be another connection in there somewhere that will help with the reveal.
Okay. Amy Kelso.
I'm just the tunnels as well, because trust me, I thought I had scoured every place in the Whitney and knew all the secret passages. So I'm wondering where the tunnels come into the Whitney that I managed to miss it. Now I gotta explore more.
Walking through an old house is always fun. Justine.
I'm thinking the same thing about the tunnels, and I also feel like I mentioned this in the chat, but I'm wondering if Nora is still alive, how Gary is speaking for her.
Indeed, that is a conundrum. Diana Duell, do you have a clue that sticks in your head?
It would also have to be the tunnels.
Okay. Miranda.
Yeah, definitely the tunnels and what's hidden in the bomb shelters. What kind of secrets do those shelters hold?
Okay.
It's intriguing.
It is. I was very surprised when I found them on the survey. Mark McCraw.
I would say the convenient mental state of Jules and the gun.
The keyword there being convenient. Donna Newman, what about you?
I don't know. I kind of wasn't even thinking bomb shelters. I was thinking prohibition, because I know Detroit was like did with prohibition. So I'm wondering if there's even more tunnels that we don't know about because of prohibition.
That's a possibility. Melinda and Mandy Joe and Mackenzie, if you would like to put your answers in the chat. Mandy Joe, if you're still driving, don't put anything in the chat. Jamie Samlin, what about you? Jamie has turned into a ghost. So Jamie, you can put your answer in the chat as well. Deb McPeak, what about you?
It would be the fallout shelters. They should be stocked with like MREs or C-rats or K-rats and a lot of things for living.
Yeah.
So they could very well have been occupied for many years.
Indeed, indeed. Jamie, you are indeed spooky. I've met you. Wolf, what about you? What clue sticks out for you, sir?
Well, I'm not sure if it actually helps solve the issue because it actually expands the list of suspects, but people in glass tunnels shouldn't throw bomb shelters.
Okay, that's got to be my favorite quote this week. Well done, sir. Amy.
Okay, we've got some things in the chat.
Cool.
Melinda says, Dawn is Troy, Gary is Nora, Christopher, I always say wrong, sorry, is spectacular, and I'm gonna hang out with the pizza boy. That's where Melinda is right now. And of course, Mackenzie's question is, you, Miss Storyteller, with your lack of denial or lack of admission to anything, how you kind of sidestep every question. Yeah. That's what Mackenzie wants to know about, as do I.
I'm starting to wonder if Mackenzie's going to make it to her 21st birthday.
Well, Not if she hangs out near any wells, I don't think.
On the Whitney.
Or authors for that matter. Okay.
Wait, what?
Your hand is still up, Amy. Anything else in the chat?
Oh, no, that, Mackenzie says we'll be lucky if I make it to 19 at this point. So
Awesome. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody for playing our game again tonight. You are, as always, spectacular. Marianne, you were away from your chair when I asked this question. Is there a particular clue that sticks out for you?
Yeah. Everything about Jules, I think, stands out for me. I think she did it.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Real quick, because we're at an hour of our time, let's do shots across the bow. Donna Newman.
No, the only thing is I'm now more confused than ever.
Confusion can be a comforting thing when you consider that I live in it every day of the month dealing with you people. So payback. Amy Kelso, shots across the bow.
Nothing. I gotta go check out some tunnels. I'll be back later.
Okay. If I can't find you, I'll know where to look. Gary Floyd, shots across the bow.
We just have a lot of clues and they don't seem to connect with each other.
Mysteries often end up that way. Marianne Whelan, shots across the bow.
I apologize. I was not up to par. I am not feeling good tonight.
Oh, you were more than up to par, my dear. You were wonderful.
It doesn't feel like it.
You were amazing.
Feel feverish.
Well, then as soon as we get offline, go take care of yourself. Melinda Falgo, any shots across the bow, you can put them in the chat and Amy will read them for you. Christopher Gare, shots across the bow.
I think your pants are in denial.
I will deny being a pantser till the end of my days.
I think we know the truth.
Yeah, no, we don't. Were you here last year? I mean, really? Jules, shots across the bow.
I just wanted to read a definition for Marianne, even though she just said she wasn't feeling good. So I feel a little bad. This bad. But trollop actually means a woman who has many casual or not casual encounters or relationships. So unfortunately, you're actually talking about your sister, not me. I just wanted to point that out.
First you kill her and now this.
Go Jules.
Jules Nelson knows how to use a dictionary. That's where we're going to end today. Well done.
For those who didn't see it in the chat, Melinda added, she quieted her.
Again.
Jules is very good at quieting people. Well done. Well done. Thank you everybody for an amazing night. I can see I have to step up my game in the next week and I will do my best not to let you all down. Have an awesome evening. Thanks for coming.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
Hope you feel better.